Nope, I need to keep playing the game. Okay. So there is. I'm trying to think. I can't remember what the last iteration of the story you heard was. So I'm trying to think. What parts do I need to tell you before I get to the questions I have? Because I don't want to be asking you questions with you not even knowing what the bigger picture is. So I'll just start. Okay, I'm not. I can't focus on an order, or we'll be stuck here all day. I'm just gonna focus on speaking, individual random thoughts, and then I'll piece them together later. So there's this concept of Arthur giving Sithriel the orb as a childhood story. What do you think of that? There's a thought.
First thought is it seems kind of first makes sense, but then it seems kind of confusing because is this before the orb? I mean, is this before his experience with the simulation?
Yeah, but you got to think he was literally built to experience that, so it makes perfect sense for the father who literally crafted him for that purpose to be like.
Well, this would be he would be telling this at a time where he's not yet touched the simulation. And he doesn't know what he's about to do in his life.
Possibly right after creation, before he's ever experienced it, and then his father's trying to like lead him into it. It's like a bedtime story. I don't know what age we want to birth the Sithriel at, but I think maybe we can like start him at like 4 or 5 or whatever. As far as like he's going to be like half machine anyways, just to be able to withstand the simulation and for them to be able to run tests and stuff and see what he's saying and stuff. So I think they can just go ahead and spawn him in at whatever age or what they like just grow him in a test tube until he's already 4, and then hook the machines up to his brain and start him at that point. But who knows? Like I said, we can start him as a baby or whatever. I don't know why they would start him as a baby, because I feel like it would be not just unethical but less useful to run the simulations on a baby. Although maybe they want to see, like, I don't know. That all depends on the reason for what, and that so there's a whole bunch of questions. These aren't even the real questions I want to ask, but these are questions we have to get to eventually. So might as well put them on the record. The idea of why are they doing it to a Sithriel, and a reason I've been working with lately is that it's going to take a long time to get the computer compatible with people directly. So in other words, it's going to take a long time before it's going to take at least like 50 years to 100 years before they can get the fully AI robot computer version, whatever the fuck you want to call it, before they get the fully mechanized simulation receptacle, right? Like the AI version of a Sithriel, right? Before they get the first machine that's capable of running, experiencing, interpreting, and explaining its experiences in the simulation. They need a person, just because it's like they don't have time to wait around 50 or 100 years. They have DNA on standby. Just grow a fucking kid in a test tube, slap a Xbox 360 in his head, and we're good to go. We can kill him off if the PC gets up and running anytime soon. That's sort of the whole idea for him. I think that makes the most sense. He's not like the one and only. He's not like the savior. He's not like super important, but he is expensive, and they only have one of him. And until the computer starts working, he is pretty invaluable. But he's not like the magnum opus. That would be the machine. He's just the step that they are researching to perfect the machine. What do you think about that?
Would it? And was there? I forget where I last left off. But was Sithriel sort of like a secret project?
Yes,
Wasn't it like
and
the
like
government or the company wanted something sort of different, and Arthur sort of had that as like a sub project?
what do you mean by something different?
Like I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how much people had knowledge of his Acithral project and how official it was.
Not many people knew. Yeah, I mean the last time we talked, it was the company, and I think it still is this mostly. The company has like an ethical side, right? And then an unethical side, like Nesquik, right? Or I'm pretty sure Nestle or whatever the fuck, the brand that literally sells chocolate milk. And like, I have childhood memories of drinking strawberry milk and watching fucking Caillou or whatever that are very pleasant. And then also they buy up the African children's water sources and then hike up the prices so that they can make money. So it's like there's like an ethical side that we see that celebrates Pride Month, and then there's the side which will literally tear your eyes out of your head if they could make a dime off it. And this company is the same way. Obviously, it's just the same thing where there's like it's a legitimate company. It's not like the evil John Wick, Hydra, fucking bad guy Inc. It's just a company which wants to evolve, and they're willing to sacrifice a DNA human machine hybrid or two if that's what it takes to actually create machine intelligence that can think originally.
And so, what was the other main question?
Well, I've got literally a billion. It will take us weeks to get all of the questions out of the way. I've got several main questions. The let's see, let's see, some of the big questions I have are what? Okay, here's a really good one. This is one that I'm really fascinated in hearing your response to, and this should take us probably a while to get through because I've got no clue where to even begin with this. I gave I gave Larry frameworks in the mind of God as his fifth step. And that's genius, but I don't know how yet. His whole thing is that he's devoid of religion. Like his whole thing is that he's the return to frameworks, pure frameworks. So I don't want frameworks in the mind of God to be in a religious way, obviously, but not obviously because we're literally using the word God, which is bad. I don't think I want to use that exact language to express the idea in the story. That's what I was saying over Voxer. I think I want to use some word like framework facilitator or like the great dreamer or the algae carpet or whatever, right? I also want to give Larry the algae carpet um, story because it's perfect for him. But the bigger idea is, yeah, frameworks in the mind of God is his fifth step. So, just like what does that mean? How does that play out? And then how? I guess, I guess I should write these things down. So, so first question, you can write these down too if you want. If you want to look at them, frameworks in the mind of God. Larry's first or fifth step. Oh, and then the next one is a Cythereal unifying will. Braxel's equation is the next one. So those are the big three, top three. So let me go more in depth. So frameworks in the mind of God is the first big one that I really want to talk about. Let's just go over. Let's just fuck it. Let's just start from the bottom of the pyramid because the pyramid is what I've been using to contain all of my big discoveries lately. That's how I was gonna do it. That's how I was gonna tie it in. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and do it because I see the opportunity. I was gonna tie in the framework we were talking about earlier, rolling with the punches, and the Oobleck framework, that whole being so relaxed you're ready to explode. I was gonna tie that into this by saying my new appreciation system is the actual explanation for what you're talking about. And so the appreciation system is appreciation, which is the understanding and enjoyment of individual experiences, right? So, you can watch a movie and enjoy it, but then you can watch it with the understanding the director killed himself the day after, and this movie was the encapsulation of his suicide note, and he meant it as his last work. And now you can watch it again, and it's suddenly significantly more meaningful, even though objectively the art piece didn't change, right? Um, because you have a deeper appreciation for it. You understand it more deeply, and now you can enjoy it more deeply. So now you appreciate it more, right? So that is what it means to appreciate, understand, and enjoy. Those two words are the brief definition of appreciation. And when you are attempting to appreciate something, so if I'm eating McDonald's and I've got a nice big bite of burger with its bread and its cheese and the french fries and it's all mixing together. And it's just like a perfect amalgamation of um flavor. Um I want to enjoy that to the best of my ability. I don't want to be thinking, I don't want my mind to be clouded about um what I'm going to do tomorrow or what I did wrong today while I am consuming that. Um So to appreciate it deeper, I am going to have to think about ways in which I could appreciate it more. So this obviously that sounds retarded and vague, but what this is basically saying is you should pursue the best thought texture in a roundabout way. This is the divine selfishness concept. This is the what you were talking about whenever you said you need to synchronize with experience. So what that means is that you need to understand um what the best way to experience that cheeseburger and french fry flavor combination in that moment is. You have to figure out what amalgamation of neurochemicals, what series of thoughts triggers the deepest enjoyment and understanding of those flavors. And that is going to lead to feedback, right? Because as you understand more and more, right? So here are some examples of deeper understanding. You could go, a cow died for this meal to be created. It was tastes. You could say, the entire Western industrialization was necessary for me to have this burger. This burger is the epitome of um society of humans being able to come together. You could, if you could go, you want to go like a sort of more edgy, aloof perspective, you could be like, this is the sign of the degradation of society when our diet is this unhealthy slop. You could say, um you could say there's no separation between me and this cheeseburger. There's another one I had that I really wanted to drop. I forgot, which sucks. But point is, you see what I'm saying. There's a whole bunch of ways to think about eating a cheeseburger that can make you enjoy the cheeseburger more. If you think about like these kids are starving in Africa, and um, I'm sitting here eating a fucking cheeseburger. Um, Basically, like a lot of them are going to fall down to the cool babies framework, which is like everything is necessary for this to exist. But anyways, my overall point is that you can see that a lot of these are, they have nothing to do with religion, right? They're raw frameworks, they're base frameworks, they're just perspectives. A human being had to work for like $9 an hour uh to assemble this fucking cheeseburger. That's what someone had to do with their life, right? That can make you appreciate it more. Um, but not that's not a religious concept. That's not doesn't come inherently from God. You don't need to have any conception of the bigger picture to um color the perception of flavor with the suffering that went into its creation, and sometimes not even suffering, just effort. Like, some people say they hate AI art because, they just wish someone had to suffer, um, the labor of bringing into creation, and if no one did, then there's no meaning. I disagree with that completely, but you it's hinting at the same underlying, um, thought, right? Which is that at all points in time, what you must do is pursue the best thought texture. And that thought texture is going to align with God. That's not even my main point here, but I do want to point that out because that's why I'm stuttering so much. I find that interesting. So I'm thinking about it, even though it's not what I should be saying. But so I'll go ahead and express it, and then we go to the next thing. Um, I find it very fascinating that all of those little concepts of like, but a cow suffered to make this meal, like a human suffered to make this meal, or this is beautiful because it emphasizes society's ability to come together and make it where we don't have to spear hunt and get frostbite anymore, but instead we can just get a cheeseburger in 5 seconds. Like, no matter what perspective you look at it from, um, you can look at it that as religious. Like, you could say like that that cow perspective is because you understand your relationship to that cow and your inseparability from it as a being, because both of you exist within the confines of the same reality or God, and so your experience is not separate, and the suffering from that cow um is necessary for you to taste that burger. And obviously that's not incorrect. But oh, but so anyways, yeah, my point is, God, I'm just seeing a lot. So my point is that it's fascinating to me that all of those little perspectives, all of the little frameworks, every single way those perspectives conform, the good ones are always going to align with God. So it's not even that like all good perspectives come from God, but it's that God is what all good perspectives come from or align with, if you see what I mean. It's like that God is the underlying pattern which makes thoughts good, not that God is the one who gives good thoughts. Which is basically just the whole concept of like God is not a thing. He's not the one who contains frameworks. God is the choosing of the best frameworks, or because God is the will to taste, he would not want you to believe in God if that distracted you from the best thought texture. So if this is a message I sent yesterday, um, God would enjoy a big fat greasy suicidal slob who sits on the couch all day watching um Honey Boo Boo and eating McDonald's and Doritos. Um, and just literally commits suicide with grease. Um, he would like that more than a track star who hates running, right? Like, even though, obviously it's significantly healthier for you and your body and your mental health to go out running every day. If you hate it and you're only doing it for your parents and your knees are fucked and it causes you pain and you wish you could do absolutely anything but run for another second, then God hates the experience of being that track star a lot more than the fat slob who just appreciates his final few seconds of um lard. And basically that whole spiel I just went on ties directly into what you were talking about with synchronization, because the fat slob has at least synchronized with his Doritos, but the runner has not synchronized with running. And it's that clash between expectation and reality, or whining, as I call it, that would lead to the worst thought textures. And so it's like what it means to be relaxed and ready to explode. What is it?
1 second, over here. Go ahead.
What it means to be the will to taste is just to experience the best thought texture. So like God would want you to believe in the Christian God if you had if you were too retarded to understand his full complexity, and thinking about his full complexity just frustrated you and made you miserable, right? Like God does not want you to experience truth. God is not the truth. God is not the thing out there. God is not something to connect with. He is you inevitably, and all of your struggles and all of your pursuit to become him and all of your whining as a result of you not being him is him already. And it's only in the realization that it was not separable in the first place that you overcome it, but that you don't even have to. Like I said, you can do a Frankenstein. You can use limit, like you can use the small frameworks, and in fact, you should use the small frameworks if you're not capable of running the God framework, because you can stack the small frameworks up into the God framework. Because like the God, it's not like basically that's the kind of realization that I've been getting at a lot lately, which is like if through pure framework you reach God, or like through pure selfishness you reach like divine intentions. Through doing nothing for absolutely anyone and only doing what you want, you become a, a Buddha or whatever, a guru, right? Someone who like a saint, right? And like that is because God is what is at the end of selfishness. Like the best thing for you is the best thing for everyone, because there is no difference between you and everyone. And the reason you should realize that is not because it is the truth. The reason you should realize that is because you want to experience the best thing, and that is the best thing. So it is the inevitable um conclusion. It is like the destination that you had to pursue regardless, even if you are not thinking about your actions being the will to taste and you're trying to distract yourself with shitty content, or um you know, shoving your face with food, or um whatever you do to tell yourself that it's not. It is. Every desire to be, every thought of how far away you are is just another formation of that will to taste. But so anyways, that is not even my point, although it is nice and it does tie exactly in with your concept of synchronization. My bigger point is that what was it? It was yeah. So all of that was not even my. None of that was necessary for my point. The appreciation, feedback, and feedback loop were my initial point. But yeah, that helps elucidate them a lot. So, with that understanding of everything I just said, which will tie into the story later, um, uh, that Jesus Christ, what everything I just said is X equals will to taste, but don't even think about that yet. The appreciation is the deepening of understanding, and the end of understanding is God. So do you see what I mean with that? Where it's like appreciation at all points, you should want to appreciate farther. What does that mean? Does that mean that understanding you are God? No, that just means literally figuring out what you can do to enjoy the experience more. If that means picking up the fucking salt and putting it on your cheeseburger, then that is what you should do. That is your divine purpose, is to pick up that salt canister and sprinkle it atop your meal. You understand? It's like literally like appreciation does not mean like well, appreciation is your relationship to the divine, and by understanding your kind of, that's not, no. Appreciation is literally just farthering your thought textures, deepening your thought textures, making yourself enjoy the present moment more. That's all it is. And you can literally spit in the face of God. If thinking about how much God sucks a fat dick is what makes your thought texture better, then that is exactly what God would want you to do, because what God is the will to taste. And the pursuance of the thought texture, that process is God. That is everything. That's all of existence, is that reaching towards himself. And so that is appreciation. Appreciation is not reaching towards God in the sense that you think about the fact that you're reaching towards God. It is literally just reaching towards whatever tastes the best. And so therefore, doing what God would do. So you're not thinking about doing what God would do. You're just thinking about being selfish and tasting the best thing for yourself, for no one else but you. And that will lead to God, because God is what is the best thing for you. And so what that leads to is that leads to feedback. And so what is feedback? Feedback is your language catching up to the deepening of appreciation. So for instance, if you think, man, I need to go to the store tomorrow and buy new shoes. My shoes are falling apart. Okay, fuck. I'm eating this cheeseburger and these french fries. I need to be thinking about them. They're only warm for now. Okay. So a cow died for this grease, these fries filling my mouth. A cow perished. A cow suffered for this meal. Right? And so you're actively going to you're actively going to think about that. That came from you thinking about, what can I think about that would make me understand the gravity of the situation better, not because that's the truth, but because understanding the gravity increases my thought textures, and I want to have the best thought texture while eating this burger. And so you think about the suffering of the cow, or how the cheeseburger is a statement on the progress of civilization, or you think about, this is one I forgot earlier, or you think about how like McDonald's is like your species super chain, to the point where every country, like every modern first world, whatever the fuck the term is for like civilized society, whatever the fuck, that has a McDonald's. Like every single place with running water has a fucking McDonald's. Everyone knows what a McDonald's is. And like that concept of like notoriety, and the fact that that probably exists across like so many different dimensions. There are probably so many different versions of McDonald's, in so many different comedic ways. Now, obviously, like Rick and Morty explores it on a very low level of like, yeah, it's the best ice cream shop in the world, but they had like 9/11s, and half the flavors have spiders. But like legitimately, like it is so fascinating that like in this time period, only in this point in time, in this society, with these technological advancements, would it be acceptable to literally torture and genocide cows for a decent cheeseburger? In like 100 years, 200 years, this is going to be viewed as like absolutely insane and barbaric, in the same way like slavery was. And like just appreciating all of that, appreciating the like in like the like chain aspect, and the fact that like like there are probably so many chains across infinity, and like your particular chain at your particular dimension, like you should appreciate that, like the individuality and the uniqueness, and you shouldn't appreciate it as its normal thing that it is to you, because across all dimensions, that's how everyone appreciates their chain. But really, if you could go to their chain, if you could visit whatever dimension C42's McDonald's was, you would be astounded at the complexity and whatever the word for surprise is. Like you would be so happy with the novelty, there we go, that's the word, of the menu, that like you'd be enraptured with the experience. And yet when you go to your McDonald's, you are just maligned with boredom because you've been there before. But you should actively think about it like you're there for the first time, right? Think about it like you're visiting from another dimension. Think about it like you are understanding its place in time, its place in the greater scale of history and time and dimensions and infinity. And by zooming out, you are appreciating deeper. And like I said, that can be frameworks in any capacity. It doesn't need to be God. God is just the end result of that deepening of appreciation. And so feedback is the language catching up to it. So as you think about like So a cow suffered for this, and so I should appreciate this because the cow suffered for this. As you think about that, your brain will actively catch up to it, and then it will think things like, yes, that is true. This is delicious, and then it will it will be hyper aware, and then it will stop thinking in language, and it will hyper focus on the actual flavor of the cheeseburger. Or like if you're trying to listen to music, and then you you completely zoom out and you focus on um the nuances of music hitting ears, which is the hearing sense, and like you think about like a bat's version of music would be completely and totally different because a bat doubles a vision over a sight. So what we think of as music would be so unusual to probably most other forms of perception, even on our planet. There are so many beings which would view our music as completely incomprehensible and possibly painful. And like it's so fascinating the way we invariably view it as like emotion holding, and we have the desire to dance and physically move along with it rhythmically, and like that's just so fascinating. Like so you zoom out and then you like view it objectively, and you just sort of break down, deconstruct the concept, and then your brain will sort of, that's the feedback, right? That the feedback is the sort of language catching up to your deconstruction of the concept. And before I would have said that language is you deconstructing the concept, but I don't think of it that way anymore. That's a whole nother spiel that I won't go down right now. But that's very, very important. That concept of not being the language, but like I said, being the man behind the framework, being the man behind the language, being the thing which goes underneath the language, not building a boat on top of the sea, right? Not trying to build a language model that carries you the best thought texture, but instead going beneath the language models to find the best thought texture,
Would you say
or
that the
going
same
beneath.
thing goes for the language of your mind as well as the perceptions of the external world? That you should dive beneath the waves of both.
I'm not sure if, I suppose in a way I agree. In another, I dislike the linguistic distinction between external world and thoughts because
I'm saying in
the
addition to them.
but I would say the word, by saying in addition to, you view them with separation. I'm like, I never would have even thought of that. I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying like uh on its face I would
Oh yeah,
reject
no,
the
I guess
distinction
it depends on
because
what I guess I didn't know what your connotation of language. So I was thinking you meant like literally the production of thoughts and the effects that the English language has on the mind.
I
Um,
mean, literally any time that your brain is speaking a sentence,
yeah.
ever. Like,
Well,
if
I'm saying,
there's
what if it's
two
not speaking a
strung
sentence? It's
together,
just viewing something.
I don't see. I don't know what. So I guess explain what you would do to
So like it's
deconstruct
like
that.
so like so, the reason why I say it is because like I had found intuitively that your phrase of going under the waves is the perfect description for the perfect way to like enjoy something. Um, like whether it was just watching a YouTube video with a VR system of being in a plane looking at mountains, or listening to a song. That in the same way that the best way to think a thought is by going under the thought and not being in the process of thinking it, the same goes for being in the process of looking at stuff and thinking about it externally. It's the same vibe of you're going under the stimulus of that thing in itself, and you're going into like the actual process, the process of it existing in relation to you. Um, you stripping it down to all of its bare layers. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, you're completely correct. That does happen. I would say I take back my last statement. Um, Although I would still say that's language. So I mean, honestly, what I would say, what that is, what you're explaining right there, is feedback. So like, um, there's 3 steps: appreciation, feedback, and feedback loop. And so appreciation is just in the understanding and enjoyment. And then there are two categories within appreciation. So then that's feedback and feedback loop. So appreciation is the main thing. Appreciation is just understanding and enjoyment, and then through trying to deepen understanding and enjoyment, which is obviously what you're always trying to get, because you're always trying to get to the maximum appreciation. You get feedback. And so feedback is what you're explaining, which is like whenever you're listening to content and then you think like you have a thought that's like, this video only exists in this timeline, or like this, that thought that he just expressed relates to God, or like relates to the larger pattern in this capacity. Like what you're talking about, like breaking down videos or breaking down content in relation to the larger pattern, or like understanding them as yourself, understanding them as God. That is feedback. Feedback is the language, like adapting to and like talking about that understanding. But you can't view that as yourself. Not that you said that, but I would always do that. Always my biggest pitfall is it's fine if the ego is talking about how cool it is, as long as you're not the thing talking about how cool it is. It's like it's your ego should be jerking itself off, but you should never ever be the ego. That's, if you're the thing that's jerking itself off, then you're just going to fall into traps. Like it's okay if the ego does that in the meantime, just spinning its wheels because it feels good. Like it's okay to develop mania, but you need to be constantly counterbalancing that with a God, or however you want to put it. I don't like the word God anymore, but because of the same reason that I just talked about. It's just like you'd never want to, and like if I call it God, then you think of God as a thing, and if I think of it as a thing, then I think of it as a thing I want to be, and if it's a thing I want to be, then it's me, and I want to be it. And if I'm thinking about it as myself, then it's the language. And so what it'll say is something like um I mean, just think about it. It'll say the same thing that I just said was good. It'll say it, and I'll think about it as I'll think about myself as being it, and it'll be bad. So like the same thing I just said that was good is the thought like, this cheeseburger is good because a cow suffered, or because it comes from an interdimensional chain, right? Either of those thoughts. If you think about those exact same thoughts, but you think about them and you think about the language they're expressing as something that you're thinking, if you identify with that language, you're fucked. You'll think the same thoughts and dig yourself into a completely different headspace. Dig yourself into a fucking rabbit hole. It's terrible. Big mistake. Still not great at expressing that. There's a whole another concept I have to express that. It's a lot better at expressing it than the whole like the whole thing paradigm we're stuck in explaining it now. I'll get to that later. It's connected to another thing. It is connected to another thing. It's connected to another thing, and I'm already expressing. But anyways, the fuck's sake, I have such a bad headache right now. I don't get headaches very often, but I have a fucking monster headache right now, and I feel retarded, and I don't know. I can't get it to go away. It's like ebbs and flows, and I can't tell if it's like more Sub-Zero or less Sub-Zero, like what it wants, water, I don't can't tell what the fuck it needs. Maybe just sleep, but I'm not normally not tired right now, especially not if I took have an Adderall, which I did. So it doesn't make sense. Point is. That whole concept of appreciation. So okay, scrap everything I fucking said up to right now and only listen to this. Appreciation, that's good. Appreciation is
Right.
good. You want to make things good. You want things to be gooder
I
and
like that.
gooder. Yep, everyone does, because it's good. And so then you go to feedback, and feedback is your brain talking about how good things are. Your brain going, yep, this is good. And then a feedback loop is whenever you're so focused on thinking about making things better that the thing that's talking about how good things are is actively consumed in the process of making things
So,
better.
so is
So
feedback is like is so appreciation is the act of appreciating the individual things, and then the feedback is when you realize that there is something that is trying to appreciate the stimulus, and then that reaching out, that attempt to appreciate, is in itself also appreciated.
yeah, yes, you're correct. And just to put that in religious terms and then framework terms, the religious terms would be you want to appreciation is the process of trying to get closer to God. Then you have feedback, which is God, basically God's response, right? Like the actual language, which is the understanding of being closer to God. And then you have feedback loop, which is the understanding of the direct responses, the active editing of thoughts to be better. You understand that as the process as well. You understand that as another avenue, another lever to better your thought textures until there's no language left. There's nothing speaking. There's only the thing trying to speak and instantly being consumed as a possibility
And
to
so
improve.
would you, is it kind of like almost like a cycle where it's like a guaranteed system to filter out positive experiences out of any given stimulus experience, because you can say, I want to appreciate my stimulus, and so you say whether I have a positive, whether I appreciate it positively or I appreciate it negatively, um, I am making that appreciation, and then that is God reaching out um, to appreciate something, and then that in itself, that reaching out should be appreciated because it is an act of God reaching out to perfect itself. That in itself should be perfected, in even if it was a negative or a positive thing, because it is, because it exists in
Hello.
itself in real.
You
Oh,
just glitched out. You lost the last sentence.
okay. Um. So so regardless if you have a positive experience or a negative experience, you attempting to appreciate that thing is God trying to uh, get the perfect thought texture, and because of that, that act of appreciating, whether it's positive or negative, in itself can be appreciated, and thus that creates that feedback loop of um, like, it doesn't need to be a, like, a quote unquote positive experience for you to enjoy it. It just because you are quote unquote reading it, appreciating it, trying to synchronize that attempt to do so, that attempt to integrate it with you, is God doing that. So that should be appreciated, and thus you get the
That
instant loop.
that is not the thing I was expressing right now. However, that is the point of what I was expressing right now, and that is the thing I was going to get to over the course of the next like hour. So, precisely, exactly, you got the point exactly, and you even went like 3 steps ahead of what I was just talking about, and you got to like the actual conclusion that was baked into it. The what you just talked about is the larger sort of version of this. Or yeah, okay, that's not a bad way to put it. That's not what it is. What you just talked about exactly is the concept of a Cythriel's trinity, which is Zix, Azix, Exazix, or um, there is the will, right? That's you, all of your thoughts, all of your desires, even the ones that are thinking about how you're not at your desire, right? The one that's thinking about how you're not rich, how you're not happy, how you're not God, how you just wish things could be like they were a year ago, how you wish synchronicity could be on your side, how you wish you could walk up the fucking stairs. All of that is Zix. All the good is Zix too, but like all of that will is Zix, right? And then you have Azix, which is the material which is responsible for that, or it's like the direct material representation of frameworks, the neural correlate that frameworks map onto, and then you, or code, right, is the way a Cythriel expresses it, and then you have Exasix, which is God's will, and the way the whole point of a Cythriel in the story is going to be, his whole life is going to be thinking about like think about the last year of our life and think about how we wasted it thinking about how we wished we were God, about how much we just wanted to get to God, how much we wanted to just inch one step closer towards God. And think about how that ruined our lives. Like it ruined like a year of our lives, just put down the drain because God is not something to seek externally. You must, like you were just saying, you have to realize the bad thoughts are God too, which makes them good. It's not a matter of making it's not a matter of you making yourself feel good. It's a matter of understanding that the bad is good as well, so that there is nothing left but good. And so that the whole point of a Cythriel story, like his whole character arc, the whole meaning for it, the whole like thing that is going to be going on in his story is his evolution from understanding God as a separate force, as the thing out there, the external exasics, the like x equals, right? Because you can think about the Omni-life equation, it's x equals and then all of the code which comes out from it. Like that was the equation the scientists were trying to solve for, right? Is x equals. They were trying to figure out what are the parameters of existence and what falls within them. What else exists? What is there out there? What is the bigger picture? And so what they were trying to solve for is what exists within the boundaries of X? What exists within existence? And that was everything, all of the code, all of the dimensions that are ran on the PC, all of those little experiences that a Cythriel is ran through. And so obviously a Cythriel views it as something separate, something that he is being forced to experience, and himself as a part of that, but not um the thing in itself, the thing which fights against it. He views like that, like the way I would have expressed it is like black hole and white hole or Twin Peaks, right? The concept of not being God, but being pinned between mortality and God, and mortality being a necessary part of God, and God being a unnecessary part of mortality. And that concept of them fighting, that eternal war is a way I've expressed it a lot throughout the past. Is what I want a Cythriel's first half of his story. I want it to be about him being miserable because he can't um synchronize, as you would say. He can't connect the dots. He cannot understand how that's one will, right? Like my Evangelion beam is the concept of um Exasics is Zix, right? Because you're splitting across the pyramid, the middle of the pyramid from the right side. What is the middle of the pyramid to the right side? It's Exasics, right? Which cuts to Zix, or Azix, which cuts to Zix, right? Which means you start from God, and then from God, you go down, you rectangle square, you consume frameworks, you consume material because God is material. And then you understand because man is material, because you are material, because you are your neural correlates, your experiences, which you think define yourself, only exist because of that pattern of particles. And so, therefore, it's one will, it's one thing, it's one beam which splits across existence. It is one synchronized will, one force, one thing thrashing forever outwards. It is not that your bad experiences exist in spite of God. It's not that God reaches out towards the best thought texture and you are a failure, that you are a mark, a blight upon that perfection. It is that all of your experiences which you consider bad are necessary experiences to form the perfect infinite. No part of God, no experience could exist without those experiences. And so they are perfect, as all experiences are perfect. And that is why God is infinite love, not because God is going to step in and save the Palestinian children, because God knows they are turning into fucking applesauce. And he is not stepping in. So it's not that he loves you in the sense, in a Sesame Street sense, a VeggieTale sense, where he's gonna stop in and fucking shield you from bullets. He loves you in the sense that he loves what it feels like to be you getting ripped apart with lead. And that's beautiful. And you have to understand that perspective. You have to zoom out to that scope. And then it's not that things become good. It's not that times are good. It's that the bad is good. It's not like this is what I mean when I say what I said a month ago. You have to laugh at bad synchronicities or they will never stop. It's like literally, unless you can roll with the punches, unless you can synchronize, unless you can understand yourself as the bad experiences, and so laugh at them, make them positive, then things will never stop getting worse and worse. Because I'm telling you what, your whining will never, ever help you trudge through the mud. It's just wasting energy. And yeah, that's a whole big thing. But Yes, you're absolutely correct. It is one will, and by understanding that one will, bad experiences melt like fucking butter. Butter being met with jet fuel. And that's the whole point of Cicero story, right? And so, I said I wanted to give an explanation of that concept from the religious perspective, and that's what I just gave. And now let's give it from a framework perspective. So, what appreciation looks like from a framework perspective is it's understanding, right? What is Larry's whole framework? His is not Zix, Azix, Xazix, right? His is you have the experience maximization principle, which states that all of your actions are because you want to maximize your experience. And so you should obviously, it's not even that you should. It's that if you're not a fucking retard, you would. If you understand that all of your actions are to maximize the best experience, then what are you going to do from there? Well, if it's not maximize your experiences, then you should probably put your head in a blender. So from there, you go to thought textures. And so basically, the question is what leads to experience maximization? Like, what experiences are the best experiences? What am I looking for? Like, obviously, if I think that Doritos create good experiences and I go and eat Doritos all day, I'm not actually gonna have good experiences. So what am I really looking for here? And the answer to that is thought textures. And thought textures are the actual deeper, nuanced um experiences, underlying experiences. I don't even know how to say that in English. Point is, um, then you ask, well, what determines thought textures? So if I want the best experience and the best experience is determined by the best thought texture, what makes the best thought texture? The best frameworks. So frameworks are the physical matter arrangement um, that results in those thought textures. If you find every morning waking up and drinking coffee improves your thought textures because it wakes you up instantly, and that warm, soothing liquid guides you from that sleepy, um, bogged down mindset into a gradual, um, energetic mindset. Then that's useful, right? And so you use that coffee to improve your thought textures, but that coffee is a physical series of particles. It is those coffee grounds, that brand, and obviously, if you switch up the brand, you can switch up your thought textures. They may have more caffeine or less caffeine, which could fuck up your day, or have a different flavor, which ruins your morning routine and makes you more frustrated. Or like there are, it is entirely dependent on that physical process. You don't do the thing because of the thing. You do the thing because of the experience it creates. So that's the lesson of frameworks. And then you go to no found identification. I don't know. What do you think that step should be? Is that a good name? I mean, it's like they're supposed to be rough translations, so it's okay if it's a little rougher on the edges, but that's really rougher on the edges. Obviously, I just stole it from no fear and death. They got no found identification on the pink hoodie, and we both have the pink hoodie, so I figured, fuck it. It's a good placeholder at least. But so, anyways, it's the whole concept I've always talked about, which is just like there's no self, there's no there's nothing at the bottom of frameworks. There's no if that's true, and all there's if everything I do is to seek the best thought texture, and the thought texture is determined based on physical matter, then there's no me. All I am is physical matter. All I am is just the series of particles arranged in an order which wants coffee, which wants a mate, which wants Instagram, right? Like that's all I am, is just physical stimuli in an order that results in my thoughts. And so then I'm nothing. There's no meaningful thing that can actually hold the label of me. And then you go to step 5, which is then you must be everything. Or like I said, frameworks in the mind of God. And so now we're back to where we started, which is frameworks in the mind of God. I'm still very curious to hear your thoughts on that. But so yes, anyways, just to go back to the whole to tie that into the appreciation and synchronization, the framework perspective would be that you are appreciating not God deeper. Like you're not like, and from the framework perspective, God is only a way to appreciate deeper. So from the framework perspective, you are appreciating deeper, which just means picking whatever framework best suits the circumstances, whether that's the confidence framework or the silence framework or the cold anger framework, right? All of these different frameworks are better in different circumstances, but each one could lead to deeper appreciation. And so from a framework perspective, deepening appreciation just means selecting the right frameworks. And then feedback would be the language running the framework, right? A feedback would just be the language talking about the process of running the framework. It would be saying things like, okay, I'm not going to yell right now. I need to ask this question so that they make it clear that I'm permitted to yell and they cannot take it back after I start screaming and make me look a fool, right? That would be like the cold anger framework, or like the confidence framework. Right? Like as you execute it, you're going to be getting feedback, which is your mind or your language actually processing the experience of running the feedback framework. It's going to be talking about, okay, now I'm going to speak to her because I am a million suns. I am a billion universes. Of course, I could speak to a woman. What kind of fool would be afraid to speak to some monkey? And that would be like the confidence speaking, right? And it's like that's not the right way to say it. That's not the way to say it. That's not objective. That's not the truth. It's just the language expressing an interpretation of confidence. In the moment. And what you need to do is you need to constantly adapt those interpretations, constantly adapt that feedback, so that it's a better and better and better framework. And so you're always like analyzing, scrupulizing, whatever that word is, for figuring out, determining what the best next thought would be. You're always editing your thoughts. You're always going through your thoughts, combing through to find a way to improve them. And then you're calling that a framework, and then you're running the framework, and then your thoughts improve, and then you watch your thoughts, and then you think, how could they improve? And then you get feedback, which is the improvement. And then you watch those thoughts and you think, how could they improve? Which is feedback. And then eventually you go so fast that a sentence cannot even form because you are appreciating the thing which gives feedback. You are appreciating the feedback right as it comes out of the oven, directly as it is created. As soon as the sentence begins to form, the moment 2 words of a 17-word sentence come out of your mind, it's already disintegrated back into the ether, back into quote unquote silence, back into mania, back into rev limiter, back into the thing beneath the language, beneath the waves, right? Because there is nothing left. There's nothing at the bottom of frameworks. There is no you. You are nothing but the process. You are only framework maximization, frameworks in the mind of God. Why do you pursue the best thought, Dexter? Because what else is there to do? There is no you. There's only the process, only the pursuit, the maximization. That maximization is you. That maximization is existence. Nothing exists outside the paradigm of maximization. And so all of these discoveries, as you can now see, frameworks lead inevitably to God. God leads inevitably to frameworks. The thing in the middle is the pursuit of the best thought texture, the pure process, the relaxation, the synchronization. And that concept is expressed in the new top of the story, which is Braxel's new concept, which is actually first expressed by Cithril. He sadly gets his brains blown out a couple seconds later, so he never gets the chance to flesh it out. Luckily, that's what Braxel's for. He gets X equals will to taste, my new gym. This is the thing at the top of the pyramid. This is the actual thing that I run in day-to-day life. This is the encapsulation of everything that we've talked about tonight, every little thing, all of the body frameworks and the whip and the relaxation and the frameworks and the God and all of it. It all ties back into this one thing, which I'm about to say. X equals will to taste. It's ran like an ego is to taste, where it's like a statement. It's something which tells you what to do, not just defines reality. It's not something external. It's not a god. It's not a thing which defines or exists outside of you. It is you. It is everything that you do, because everything that you do, in the wise words of the experience maximization, Jesus, I'm literally about to throw up from not having water in my throat. My God. Everything that you do is a result of the pursuit of the best thought texture. And so you must be the will to taste. It's not that the will to taste is something that you must become. It's not that you are owed to become the will to taste because that is what is true. It's not that because God wasted his energy to form you, you are in debt to him and so must become his conduit. It's not that you are a perfect being and so you must become God because God is the way to reach perfection. It's not that you must not crash the car so you have to run God. All of those just lead to the thing which is anxious about its inability to not run God. All of those lead to the language hyper focusing on its inability to actually close the gap between you and God, because God isn't out there. God was always there. God was the thing which thought it was not God. And until you can understand that and truly synchronize, truly become that process, and not become that process by changing yourself into the process, but becoming that process by understanding there was never anything but that process. And anyways, what I mean by that is all of that appreciation and feedback loop and synchronization is X equals will to taste, because the way you run X equals will to taste is by figuring out, by solving for X, just like the scientists did, just like the people who tried to solve the Omni equation. They tried to figure out what fell within the parameters of existence. And what did they find? They found will to taste. They found, quote unquote, God, if you want to use that language. They found the thing beneath the frameworks, if you want to use that language, the thing beneath science, or the way, if you want to use the Taoist language, whatever the fuck language you want to use, that is X. And so what do you do when you solve for X? Does that mean that you try and figure out how you are God? If X equals will to taste, and I'm trying to figure out what X is, does that mean that I'm trying to figure out how I'm God? In a way, but obviously not in that way, right? Obviously, yes, that's true, but not if you literally mean pursuing God as something in the distance, not if God is a goal and you are the thing which pursues it, not if there is any point which you are the language, not ever if you're the thing speaking, if you're the thing which is thinking about becoming God, if your language which is saying that God is over there and if you just need to do this and this and this and this to get there, then don't do that. That's not the right one. The one I'm talking about is the one where you go, what is and is not God? You try to become, you like those scientists, you try to distinguish what does and does not fall in the parameters of existence. And basically, you just ask. So, like, in other words, the interrobang, question mark, exclamation mark. What was that? Question mark was the process of trying to figure out what was God? How am I God? How is this God? How do I deepen my experience? How do I deepen my appreciation? How do I quote unquote eat? Right? How do I consume like God would consume? What would God do? That's what question mark is. And then exclamation mark is the actual live time experience of God, understanding that you are God, acting as though you are God, being quote unquote God. And that is encapsulated within the equation without separation. You no longer need the dichotomy which arises from viewing one as the question mark and one as the exclamation mark. Obviously, that puts you in the mindset of thinking of them as two different states or steps, as like I always say. You get confused thinking of them as steps. What you really want to do, and that was the point of the interrobang, like I said earlier in the call, but I just got confused. It gets too confusing. The point of this is to remove that confusion entirely by not even having you view them as two separate things, but as inherently viewing them as the same thing. Because your goal is to figure out what equals will to taste. X equals will to taste. What is X? So your question, right? How do you run the framework? You try to figure out what is will to taste. Literally, what equals will to taste. And so the answer, of course, is everything. Like in retrospect, obviously, if you follow the lessons from all the rest of the story, then you know everything is will to taste. There's nothing which escapes the boundaries of will to taste. But the active process of figuring that out, it never ends. There's never a point at which there is something which isn't will to taste, and there's never a point at which you are not quote unquote converting it into will to taste, to use religious language. That's the word I really those are the words I really like when we were going back through the voice messages over the past couple years or whatever. It was like that concept of live time thought texture translation into will to taste. Those were like the type of words I used all the time. Um, um, will to taste translation, live time thought texture disintegration, all of those concepts are this concept of the same thing, like going beneath the language, becoming God, but not becoming God by the language becoming God, but by becoming God by making the language understand, or more than that, going beneath the language and understanding that all of the language, every iteration of the language is just that underlying process. And then the language will naturally reform itself in line with it. You cannot force the language to be different. You do not force the language to be God. There's no drill instructor which is telling you, no, 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 do not think like that. Think differently. Think like this. It's not that. It is the thing which is moving towards the guiding principle, the general will, the process itself, the true will to taste, not the will to taste which thinks about how it is not the will to taste, but the will to taste which knows it is the will to taste, because thinking anything else would not be the will to taste. It would limit your ability to maximize frameworks, limit your ability to achieve the best thought texture, taste the best thing, have God lap up the best flavors, right? Slurp you dry like a Go-Gurt. Yeah, that's the whole sort of thing. That's the whole shebang, I suppose. Um, what do you think about that?
It's dang. It's definitely. I like the will to, or the X equals will to taste. It seems like a very simple yet very powerful framework. It's gonna take a second for me to fully understand
Oh yeah,
all the
yeah. It'll
nuances of it.
yeah, it'll take days probably. Like all good framers, they take like sub one framers, right? They take another week or two before they reach their full power. They age like fine wine. Even for me, like this framework obviously has taken me a literal year to figure out. Um, it's insane, but it's beautiful. It is the whole point is the intersection between God and frameworks. A Cythriel is expressing God and Larry is expressing frameworks. And it's the fact that it's not either one of them. It's the thing which is beneath them. It's that whenever you understand that God runs into frameworks and that frameworks run into God, because it's not that either one of them are true, it's that they're pointing towards the same thing. That is X equals will of taste, because they're like, what does framework say? Framework says that there's nothing at the bottom of frameworks. There is no you. There is only thought textures. And so what should you do? Well, it's like you should pursue the best thought textures. And I don't mean should in a moral way. I mean, like I said, should in a, if not, you should drop a bathtub in a toaster, or the opposite of that. Because like you're meaningless. Like if your response to understanding that everything that you do inevitably would be the pursuit of the best thought texture anyways isn't to then maximize your thought textures, then I don't even care to speak to you. um uh and so there's something deeper that goes below just the dismissiveness. But the dismissiveness is an expression of that underlying concept anyways. To skip beyond that because I don't care about that right now. Uh that concept of the connection between frameworks and religion. Because frameworks at the bottom, there's no man at the bottom of frameworks, the man behind the frameworks, there's nothing, you are never the language, you are only the thing which shapes the language, you are never the frameworks, you are only the thing which decides the frameworks, right? They're the same thing. From the religious perspective, it's that God is the thing which shapes the language and that God's the thing that's guiding you. From the framework's perspective, it's that God is the best framework, that God is the framework which is going to naturally produce the best thought textures, and that by believing that you are God, you make yourself more confident and therefore more likely to achieve a given task. And so, therefore, you must believe that you are God because that is the best framework. It has nothing to do with true belief or objectivity or truth or a greater purpose or anything like that. It's simply because you must believe you are God, because the ones who believe they are God are more likely to fucking sing the best music, fight the best fights, make the best podcast. Like be able to fucking eat their macaroni and cheese and focus on the goddamn flavor. It's everything. It's every little fucking nuance. And it's like that is the whole point. Is that that God is not God because he's God. God is God because he wants to taste you. Frameworks are not frameworks because they're frameworks. They're frameworks because you're arranging them in the order which is going to result in the most beautiful, potent experiences. It's like they're the same thing. You are God, and God wants the best thought textures. You are frameworks, and frameworks want the best thought textures. What is the best framework? God. What is the best way to understand God through frameworks? What is that pointing to? It's not either one of them. It's the thing in the middle. X equals will to taste. The active process of becoming the best thought texture. Not any individual way of doing it, but whatever way works best in the moment. Like it was tied to this concept I had a long time ago that's been expressed in multiple ways, which is framework determinism, which is the idea that it's like if God was a big fatty boom batty and he was running away from a serial killer, what would he do? Would God run faster? Would God run like a skinny person? No, obviously not, because it's not fucking possible. He's constrained within the boundaries of material, and to lose that weight, he would need to spend years cutting calories and going for daily jogs, and obviously, sadly, there's no time to spend years of dieting in the middle of running away from someone who's trying to stab you. So what you have to do is you have to focus on maximizing what you can do. And instead of thinking about what a big fat ass tub of lard you are and how you wish you would have eaten spinach for breakfast, you need to think about putting one big fucking rotund leg in front of the other to propel your spherical weight away from the thumbtack to your grandiose balloon, right? You need to focus on not getting popped instead of what you're going to do if you escape. And that same thing, being a fat person running away from a serial killer, is God. Because in that moment, what he needs to do to maximize his thought textures is forget about everything except the thing which is going to get him away. And anything else is futile. There's not enough time. And that is why it's not about being God. It's not about being objective. It's about finding what equals the best thought texture, right? Because it's like literally, if you want to break it down from a fully religious perspective, you can say that the reason you must find X instead of God is because God, within the confines of man, would be more miserable trying to find himself than he would embracing the confines and enjoying them. And the whole point of God becoming man was to enjoy the confines in the first place. So, therefore, if the man in the confines of his mortality enjoys shoving Doritos in his face more than sitting in a chair with his eyes closed, thinking about the nature of God, then he is morally obligated to shove Doritos in his face because God forged himself into all of existence specifically for that man to enjoy his experience. And that man enjoying his experience with those Doritos is in itself God. And so that is why you must find X equals will to taste, because X is the best thought texture or the best arrangement of frameworks given the confines of your biology and the time constraints of your dimension. Um, And yeah, that's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. None of those words were ever anything but the one thing. Nor was that lack of words. Jesus fucking Christ. So anyways, frameworks in the mind of God. What do you think about that?
Okay.
What do you say?
What was the question?
Have you have been recording, right?
Yes.
Thank Christ. Do you think you got it?
Got what?
The recording. Try to stop and see.